be just going to be the two of us. If that's okay, we can hold the fort. That is the update, I think. So I kind of want to check that everybody can. Yes, I'm just looking at the live stream. It looks like people can see us and hear us, hopefully. I can see that people are watching. Okay, great. Well, let's just get started then in that case. So what we have the live stream, people can see us, and there's a chat, which I think is where people will be able to put questions in for the kind of Q&A aspect, which will be most of what we're doing today, I think. But yeah, maybe we could both introduce ourselves quickly just so everybody knows who we are. So this session is a multi-track information and Q&A session, and thank you, Sarah, for letting us do this through Rise and Shine. We can chat just a tiny bit more about multi-track in a sec, but just to introduce myself, I'm Arlie Adlington. I'm an audio producer based in London. At the moment, I work at a company called Something Else. I've also done lots of freelancing before that. And I am on the kind of organizing team for Multitrack, so I help sort of put the thing together and hopefully keep it rolling over time. So yeah, that's who I am. Deborah, do you want to? Yeah.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Deborah. I am a previous Multitrack fellow, so I was an associate fellow last year. And also I'm an audio producer now. So yeah, freelance audio producer working in the industry.
Cool. So I'll just, I feel like maybe just to start, I'll do a tiny little summary of just kind of what Multitrack is and the sort of plans for the next fellowship and that sort of thing. And then I think we can basically open it up for just any questions that people have about the fellowship or the application process. That's kind of what we're here to just answer any questions, basically. So Multitrack is an audio producer fellowship, which this will be the second time the fellowship happened. It happened for the first time in 2019, and then it is happening again at the beginning of 2021. So it would have been Multitrack 2020, but because of the pandemic situation, we kind of delayed it a bit this year while we were working out the best way to kind of proceed with it. And at the time that we would have been kind of organizing it was right when this was all starting, and we weren't quite sure what the future held. So it's been a bit delayed, but basically it's a fellowship aimed at kind of entry-level producers who are trying to get their foot in the door to the kind of UK audio industry. And it is also specifically kind of aimed at people that are underrepresented in the industry as it is. So are underrepresented kind of on the basis of race or disability or socioeconomic background. So it kind of came from an awareness that the industry can be quite hard to even understand actually how it works, let alone work out how to kind of break in. And there's a lot of freelancing that happens in the industry that often, comes from people having access to kind of these, networks of knowing people, and there's been a long history of kind of unpaid internships, as there has been in lots of creative industries, and all these different reasons that it can be difficult for people to kind of get their foot in the door of the industry. And so what Multitrack does is we coordinate different independent production companies who sign up to be part of the scheme. We coordinate them to provide paid internships, paid at the living wage, for entry-level producers, and the producers that are part of Multitrack, they'll spend about 2 months in total on these paid internships, and they'll get to spend a month each at a different production company. And then the fellows come together once a week for training sessions as a group. So even though the fellows are at different companies, they come together once a week as a kind of cohort and have training, which is done by a mix of people from all of the different companies that are involved. And sometimes we also get other people from the industry, other freelancers and that sort of thing involved in the training. And so the sort of idea is that the fellows are a kind of cohort together in that year, and that they get the chance to meet as many different people as possible from all the different host companies and different people that are kind of supporting Multitrack, so that hopefully they get a chance to get to know lots of people in the industry during that time. And then we also try to arrange for there to be some commissioning opportunities that the fellows can pitch for. So last year we had 3 documentary slots with the BBC, which the fellows last year the 2019 fellows were able to pitch for, and 3 of the fellows, including Deborah, got to make their documentaries. And I'm sure Deborah can maybe in a sec talk a little bit about that and what she did in that kind of process. And so that's something we're working on for this year as well, that we hope, it's sort of still TBC, but we definitely hope to be able to offer kind of commissioning opportunities again for the fellows. So hopefully that wasn't too rambly of an explanation, but essentially, yes, we try to, we sort of coordinate these production companies to offer these internships and training opportunities. And that's kind of what we do and what you would be applying for Multitrack. And this year the next fellowship is planned to run from January to March 2021. So exact dates we can confirm kind of as we with the kind of fellows as we find those people. But yeah, that's kind of a summary of it. Deborah, do you maybe want to quickly talk about it might be cool to just talk about that process of getting your documentary commissioned and
Sure.
And that, because I think that's, it'd be like cool to hear about that.
Yeah. So in terms of the documentary, that kind of came towards the end of the experience. So I was an associate fellow, so that meant that I didn't necessarily have the training, but that I think that's changed going forward in 2021. Everyone will get the access to the training. So I didn't necessarily have the training, but there was an opportunity to pitch that came around like later on in the process. And we basically just kind of went through the stages of pitching, and it was actually really helpful because I think pitching audio when you haven't really done it before can be quite daunting. So we were walked through that process with the help of the steering group and with the help of the directors of Multitrack, and they kind of gave us advice. But then it really was a space for us to kind of do whatever we thought would be interesting. And it was an arts documentary slot with BBC Radio 4. So yeah, that was kind of that. And we went through different rounds of pitching and perfecting the idea, and then we got the final result. And mine was called In Sukkah is Burning, and that it premiered in September 1st. So that was a really cool experience. It was a lot of work. It was super fun, and it was really amazing work about something that you genuinely care about. So yeah, it was awesome. Feel free to ask any other questions about it, but that's kind of a general look at it.
Cool, thank you. Yeah. So a thing that was different the first year was we had kind of these, we had the fellows and then we had associate fellows. So basically we had enough places to offer the kind of paid internship and like that full aspect to 3 people, but we wanted to still be able to bring some more people along for the kind of training aspects and the other aspects. So we had this kind of like different fellowships that were available. And everyone was still able to pitch for the commissions, which is why Deborah was able to pitch and make her documentary, but not everybody had the full paid internship. So that was kind of as part of, in a way, sort of the experiment of starting the fellowship that first year and working out what we could offer and trying to offer as much as possible and that sort of thing. But we have got it this year. So everybody who gets a fellowship with Multitrack this year will have the internship and the training and the opportunity to pitch for commissions, and that'll be the same across all of the fellows. So we have more companies signed up this year, which is great and means that we're able to offer more places, basically. So I reckon we can start looking at the questions that are coming in on the YouTube link. I think okay, I'm going to scroll. I'm just working out which way I should scroll to find the questions. I think I've worked it out. So the first question that I can see is it in person or distance learning? So this is a interesting question in the context of kind of the pandemic. It would be in a normal scenario, this would be going into the offices of the company that you're working at, and being very hands-on in that way. It's going to be slightly different. It's extremely likely that it's going to be slightly different this year because of the pandemic. A lot of companies are doing a lot of remote work, and we also can't 100% predict exactly what the situation will be kind of January to March time in terms of whether people are going into offices and studios and that kind of thing. So I think the answer is it's very likely that this will involve quite a bit of remote working because that's how most of the companies are doing most of their work at the moment. But it is also possible that there will be some work in the company's offices or studios, as long as that is safe to do and everyone is happy that that's safe and that's okay with the government guidelines and etc. It also may well be possible that maybe you'd go in to do some studio recording or that kind of thing. So that was quite a rambly way of saying that essentially it will be probably involve quite a bit of remote working, but you would need to be in the city. Whether you're in London or Manchester, you would need to be able to be in that place so that if there is any in-person stuff that happens, that can happen, that you're able to go. So that's kind of how we're approaching that based on kind of as much as we can know about how it's going to work. Hopefully that kind of answers the question. Okay. So the next one is, someone said, I'm a composer, but I'm still interested in all aspects of audio. I was told that I should still apply. How best to approach the application so that I'm still considered? Cool. So basically what I would say is the fellowship is definitely really aimed at people that are trying to become producers. So as long as that is a kind of an ambition for you, that you would like to work as a producer and kind of are interested in all the different aspects of producing and sort of the kind of, researching ideas, interviewing people, recording, editing. If you are kind of envisioning to make that your job as well as composing, and that could easily involve composing as well, because there are people who produce, but they also, do all their own sound design and compose music and that kind of thing. There's lots of kind of room for a range of sort of skills in what a producer does, as long as your kind of ambition is to work as a producer as well, then you should definitely apply. And I would just there's aspects of the application where we'd want to hear about your kind of what you've done before, even if it's just in your own time, that kind of shows your interest in production and things that you've made. And we asked to see some examples of kind of some creative work that you're really proud of, which doesn't have to be a podcast or a radio program. It could be a piece of music or anything creative that you're really proud of. So I would just make sure it's really clear what kind of experience you do have that's relevant to the producer aspect, and kind of show that you are interested in producing, and not just being a composer, and really kind of just give any examples you can of that element. And I think it's a really great thing. I mean, if you become a producer and you have the ability to compose and do that kind of thing, that's amazing, and that'll be a really awesome kind of like string to your bow. So yeah, it sounds good. Hopefully that is sort of helpful. And then someone had asked the same on the composer thing, so hopefully that kind of answers that question. Then what are the hours like? So the hours would be kind of normal, mostly kind of normal office hours. You could do this as a full-time or a part-time fellowship, and what we say about that is that because we want to be able to kind of work around different commitments that people might have, or people might have childcare or caring things, or have a part-time job already they need to work around. So we can work with whoever's chosen. You'd be able to say, can you do it, whether to do it full-time or part-time. So, whether that's doing like a few days a week rather than 5 days a week, but over a longer period, or if it's doing 5 days a week for 2 months, we can kind of work that out with you. But it does need to be, the hours would generally be sort of office hours, and the training always happens during a work day. So that's not additional, that just comes out of your work week, and you're still paid for that time as normal. But you would need to kind of be able to commit. We could be flexible about the kind of full-time, part-time thing, but it would need to be sort of like a few days a week. I think if it was I think it would be very difficult to do, say, 1 day a week over a really long period. It just wouldn't quite give you the opportunity to get the experience that we want you to have in terms of working on projects with the companies and really getting to know them, and being able to do both the training and the kind of work element. So hopefully that helps. Then what do we have? And then
there's a question from Autumn about the documentary.
Do you want to answer that, Deborah?
Sure. So the documentary that I pitched, so it was an arts doc kind of brief. So that meant that it was just anything to do with the arts in any capacity. And for me, I was really interested in literature, but like Nigerian literature specifically. I grew up reading like the books of Chimamanda and like Chinua Achebe. So I was just curious about it. So I pitched a documentary called Nsukka is Burning. And it was basically all about a town called Nsukka that had brought forth like loads of incredible writers. I can drop a link if you guys want to have a listen to it. And yeah, it was really, it was a cool experience because it was very much something that was very on brand for me. It was something that was an extension of something that I would be interested in anyways. So I think that's what's really cool about the pitching opportunities is it's not necessarily going to be it's too limited. There is a lot of different things that you can do with it. So it can still be like something that you're interested in, which I think is great. So yeah, that was that. So I'll just drop a link as well.
Cool. So how many places are available this year? There's definitely going to be 5 places available. There may be more places because we're actually still signing up companies, and now that we've announced that it's happening, some more companies are realizing they could get involved. So basically minimum of 5 places, possibly more. What's next? Yeah, someone else had asked about kind of hours and whether it's full or part-time, so hopefully we covered that. Are international applicants welcome? So you do need to be eligible to work in the UK in order to apply. So if you have that eligibility to work in the UK, then you can definitely apply as long as you're able to be in the city that you'd need to be in, London or Manchester. Yeah, hopefully that answers that. It's a simple one. Are there ways of recording remotely that are used? Yes. So there are. The pandemic has been a great experiment in everyone working out exactly how to do remote recording and kind of improving on their processes for that. So for my work, for example, we have been doing a lot of remote recording, and that's been a mixture of sometimes we're couriering mics to people's houses and helping them set up a mic so they can record themselves at home. Sometimes it's been as simple as getting people to record like on their iPhone or whatever. But there certainly is a lot of remote recording going on at the moment, with it being difficult sometimes to get people to studios or to go and record people. So it's, if things are vaguely like they are now in January, then I think there'll be some kind of remote recording going on. And in a way, it's a shame to not be able to go and record in person, but also a really useful skill to learn how everyone's coping with having to just carry on recording stuff in this situation. So that someone had asked about, despite the remote working, are we still only taking applications from London and Manchester? So we kind of touched on this earlier, but just to say, we are still focusing on, we are sort of saying you'd need to be able to be in London or Manchester, and that's because it won't necessarily be totally remote. Like at the moment in my job, for example, I am sometimes going into the studio to do things. And if it's possible to do that in a safe way, I think the companies would really like to give the fellows the opportunity to see that stuff happening, to meet them in person and that kind of thing. So that's why we are still sort of putting those locations on it, even though it is likely to involve a certain amount of remote work. Someone said, is it open to people who have a little experience, i.e. 1 or 2 freelance jobs under their belts? Or are you looking for complete newcomers to audio? No, you should definitely apply. That sounds like exactly the right amount of experience. We're basically looking for people who can demonstrate that they are trying to sort of seek out a career as a producer and can show it doesn't have to be through paid work. It could be by anything you've done in your spare time, but we do want to see evidence that you are pursuing this and that this is like a passion for you. So if you've done a few freelance bits of work along the way, that's kind of perfect. And the kind of guideline that we've given is, I think we've said in terms of paid work, that you should have done sort of not more than about 2 months of paid work in the last year. And that if you're already earning most of your money from audio, then you're probably too far ahead for Multitrack, because we're really trying to give people kind of like a foot in the door. But yeah, that sounds like the perfect amount of experience to apply for Multitrack. So I'd say to that person to definitely apply. Deborah, like, I don't know if, like, would you want to talk a little bit about sort of what you had done before applying for Multitrack and the kind of stuff you talked about on your application?
Yeah, no. So I think I pulled up my application to see what I actually said, because I was like, what was I talking about? So I think I spoke about, for me personally, I had no experience in audio formally. I had just been interested in podcasts for a little while and then decided to make my own stuff. So I had made like short little audio drama pieces, like probably quite terrible audio, but little pieces on things that I was interested in, like an audio newsletter. So honestly, those are the things that I applied with. I think that the most important thing when you are applying is it really is just to just have a passion for it, and to show that in the work that you created. Your work doesn't have to be, don't worry if it's like not perfect and it doesn't sound perfect. It's really just more about it being able to show that you really care about the work that you do, because my work was by no means perfect.
Awesome. Thanks, Deborah. So what next? Sorry, I'm just finding the right bit to scroll to. What are you looking for in a fellow other than an interest in audio and being from an underrepresented background? I mean, we're looking for people that really do want to pursue being a producer and are kind of passionate about that side. So, we're looking for people that are really passionate. It's kind of like Deborah said, people that can show, even if it's just small little projects that you've done in your spare time or anything, but just to show that you are kind of pursuing it the best that you can. We're looking for people that are really excited about all the different aspects of being a producer, which is, some of it is like, I mean, I think everybody enjoys different aspects of producing differently, actually, because some people maybe really love the kind of like interviewing people and recording things aspect where you get to like interact with people. Some people, like I personally, really like the bit where I've recorded everything and I just put my headphones on and I get to just be like a little hermit editing in my room or whatever. But whatever it is, it's kind of showing the aspects of production that you are really interested in and really passionate about. We're looking for people that can show kind of creativity, and that's why one of the questions on the application is to show us the thing that you're the most proud of, regardless of the medium you've made it in. So if it's like a song that you wrote or a painting that you did, it could really be anything, something that you've written, or it could be an audio thing. But our kind of thing there is like, we're interested in your creativity, and we're interested in like the thing you've done that you're just really excited about. So yeah, because a big part of being a producer is kind of having ideas and having stuff that you want to say and things that you want to do. And yeah, like, being able to bring sort of a creative flair and like original thinking to how you're going to make a program or do a thing. So if you can show that in the application, I think that will just really help you to kind of stand out. But I'd say, just to say as well, there's nothing about the application process that's like us trying to catch anyone out, or like, we really are looking at the applications like in a really kind of open way. We're really looking to see the best in everyone that's applying. So I think if you just kind of put your best foot forward, tell us about your passion, tell us why you want to be a producer, and what you've done so far, we'll pay. We really read all of the applications, multiple people read all the applications, and we really try to make sure we give everyone a good amount of time to look at what they've put in that application. So I'm sure it will come across in what you write. Hopefully that was vaguely an explanation, an answer to that question. Someone asked, during the 2-month internship, we'll be placed with 2 different companies. How do you choose which 2 companies a fellow will work with? Yes, that's an interesting question, and it's slightly difficult because there isn't really like a perfect formula for how we do that. I think we want to try to place people to an extent that we can in companies that we think kind of align with the sort of interests that they've shown through their application and the interview process. But we also may, we have the companies that are signed up, and the different type of work that they do kind of is what it is. So to an extent, we can't necessarily place someone in like the perfect thing that's like exactly the type of program that they dream of making all the time, but we will try to put people into a company that we think makes sense for them to be in. And also there might be, maybe one of the companies you'd be with is actually something a little bit outside of what you've done before, and that might be really useful because it's kind of different experience, and you might find something new that you really like that you didn't know you were going to like. And also it's kind of just like it's sort of like a sort of realistic thing, in that a lot of the time when you're just working, some of the time you spend doing the thing you really want to do that you're super passionate about, and some of the time you're working on stuff that's like, this is a job and I'm happy to be doing audio, but it's not my favorite thing or whatever. But yeah, there's a slightly rambly way of saying that we do try to place people in a sensible way, but also the companies taking part are who they are. So to an extent, we just have to try to make the best fit that we can within that kind of limitation. So somebody asked us if we could clarify what's meant by audio experience. They said, I've done some experience in live sound, but that's been very much as a technician, not as an audio producer. I would say that, I mean, that's really good. If you know that you do want to pursue being a producer, that's great. Talk about the live sound experience that you have. Talk about why it is that you want to kind of move towards the production side, and kind of what you know about that and why you're interested in that. But I would certainly say if you've only done live sound, don't think that means you shouldn't apply. Just write an application where you explain why it is you want to be a producer, and kind of tell us about the experience that you do have, and get that passion across, and share anything that you can to kind of show that experience. And that you should definitely still apply if the kind of producer track is where you want to go. So I think, by the way, I think Lisa, who's listening to the live stream and is also on our team, I think somewhere in the chat she has posted a link to the 3 documentaries that were made by the fellows from last year. So you can find that in the chat, and you should definitely listen to them because they're all great. Just refinding where we are in the questions. So yeah, somebody had asked about a specific company and whether it would be possible to do a placement with them, and Lisa kind of clarified in the chat, but I'll just say here as well. We've kind of got like a specific list of companies signed up that are doing Multitrack this year, which are 7 Digital, Whistle Down, Something Else, Little Dot Studios, Loftus Media, Audio Always, Chalk and Blade, Reduced Listening, and Grape. And hopefully some more to be announced, which we'll announce when we can. So it will be one of those companies that signed up. And if you keep an eye on our website, we will update the website and the FAQs if there is updates in terms of other companies joining. Somebody asked, someone asked Deborah if you could give an idea of what you did day to day. Or maybe this may be slightly difficult because Deborah didn't do the internship aspect, but Deborah, maybe could you talk a bit about the training sessions, and then I could maybe chat a bit about the day to day.
Yeah, no, sure. So for the training sessions, those would be every Friday. I'm sure it's flexible now, but when last year we did it every Friday, I believe. And that was for, I believe it was 10 weeks, I think so, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think it was 10 weeks. And what we'd had different sessions. So we had like skill sessions, recording in the studio, recording, field recording. So they were all different like weeks. And we would go to different production companies and learn from different producers and mix engineers and sound designers and all of that stuff. So it was good because we got a lot of variety and we got to meet loads of different people along the way, and just kind of like learn loads of things, and then kind of discuss them with each other, hang out with each other, and just kind of have that experience. So if you have more specific questions on it, feel free to ask, but there's just, you learn such a range of things. So yeah.
Awesome, cool. And I'll just like really briefly, I mean, so we don't have Deborah didn't do like the internship aspect last year, but just to give like a bit of an idea of what the day-to-day probably would look like, it's likely to It's going to involve a range of stuff. It's going to depend a little bit on what projects the company has going at the time that you're there. But we would hope that it will involve getting to kind of be around when interviews or things like that are being recorded. Hopefully getting a chance to do some kind of editing, maybe helping to kind of cut tape that's been recorded for things, for example, and kind of learn how to do that. It's definitely going to involve a little bit of just the like producer admin stuff that we all have to do. So maybe that's like coordinating people to sort of arrange a recording that's going to happen remotely, or maybe it's like booking cabs or all of that sort of stuff. That's definitely a big part of every producer's job, and there's probably going to be some of that going on. And we hope also sort of there may be some opportunities to shadow people doing different bits of work, to hopefully go to some meetings and kind of sit in and get to listen to sort of and be part of kind of creative and like ideas meetings. If there's kind of pitch meetings happening, we would like, it would be great if you could go in and sit in on those if they're happening. We certainly encourage companies to invite you to do that if they can. There might be a bit of variety in what's possible, but we really encourage them to try to expose the fellows to as many different aspects of the kind of production process as possible. So yeah, it will probably be quite varied, and it will probably be a little bit different this year, being a lot of remote working, I imagine. But yeah, quite varied, hopefully. Somebody asked how many applications we're expecting to get. We got just under 100 last year, and I think we're expecting to get more this year because more people have heard about the fellowship now and that kind of thing. So kind of hard to predict, but somewhere upwards of 100, I would hope and expect. But as I said, we do take quite a lot of care about reading all of the applications and multiple people reading them all. So you'll get a good amount of attention on your application, however many people do apply. We can promise that. So seeing if we've got any more questions. Maybe that was the last question that we have, I think, in there at the moment. So I guess if anyone has any other questions, maybe we'll just give a few minutes for people to possibly think of more questions. And then in the meantime, I mean, yeah, maybe, I mean, Deborah, would you want to maybe just say a little bit about what sort of like life after Multitrack has been like?
Sure. Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah, I don't mind to. So I think that Multitrack was really an important experience for me, because I think it allowed me to kind of get the confidence that I needed to do, to kind of start my audio career, and also just explore on my own and all of those things. So right now I'm a freelance producer and audio artist. I'm working on various things, but I've done work with like loads of different organizations, and it was definitely Multitrack that pushed me in those directions. So I'd say the Tate, BBC Voice and AI, BBC Radio 4, like a number of really cool places. And for me personally, I would say that I've been able to like start writing again and realize like parts of audio I really enjoy. I think one thing I would say to everyone as you're coming in, like, it's important that you have a love for producing, but not everything, kind of like what Ali said, like not every part of producing is going to be your favorite part. For me, I don't actually love editing, and it's actually okay. Like, I try to pretend that I loved it, but I don't. But I love like coming up with ideas and actually being part of the producing, in terms of like putting things together, but not necessarily editing it. What I would say life after Multitrack is, it's kind of getting to grips with what you really want to specialize in, and seeing what other stuff you can be part of making and make for yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks, Deborah. I'm glad that, yeah, stuff's come together. I think for different people, somebody asked kind of what has kind of what doors have opened for people after the fellowship, and I think that everybody is working and doing stuff in audio, which is amazing. And um uh yeah, I think it's, you know, it can be up and down when you're first trying to get to career started. And that's kind of why we really try to help the fellows meet as many different people in the industry and stuff as part of it, so that hopefully it's sort of like opening doors and it makes it easier to have kind of conversations with people and approach people about work and ideas and things like that. um, you know, I don't think every fellow came out of Multitrack in 2019 and just immediately had like a full diary of stuff or had a full-time job and that kind of thing. It isn't, you know, yeah, it can be difficult to kind of get going, but I do think over the year things have kind of gradually picked up for everybody, and people seem to be like doing really great. And you know, not claiming Multitrack is responsible for every single opportunity that has come that you know come by for everybody, like of course not, and I'm sure everybody's doing loads of stuff to try to kind of get things going for themselves, but hopefully it, you know, has helped in certain ways, and that there are some kind of dots that can be connected between those things. Yeah, so
I would
um,
also just add, like, I think one thing that multi-track can is really amazing for is, I think, make getting into a new industry and trying to build connections and meet new people is just really, really difficult. And I think it kind of like having multi-track to be kind of like a catalyst for you meeting all these people, and for you being someone who people know of because you're associated with multi-track, it can be really helpful to just have a conversation with someone, because people know of you because you're part of the multi-track fellowship. So just that kind of, I wouldn't say publicity, but like awareness of who you are and what you do is really, can be really powerful, because even I would say a lot of the opportunities that I've had just by being associated with multi-track have come to fruition. So yeah.
awesome, that's good. Yeah, I think that's the thing as well, is sort of getting started in the industry. It can be like a bit of a slow burn. Like maybe you make a connection with someone and it's like a year or 2 years or something before you end up working with them, but it all kind of comes together eventually. And it's also just great to kind of have a community that you're part of and people that you know and can ask questions to and things like that. And hopefully that's part of what being part of a multi-track cohort sort of gives you as well, that you've got those people you did multi-track with that you could ask questions to or bounce ideas off and that kind of thing. Somebody asked Demarque, who was one of the fellows last year as well, is in the chat for the live stream. And he was saying that he's done some stuff, he's produced for Kiss FM, and kind of been noticed by people in the industry and had a few different really good opportunities. So I just thought I'd just say that as well. It's nice to have Demarque here, and I'm glad that, yeah, that he's kind of had those opportunities come as well. Thank you, Demarque, for helping answer questions in the chat as well. That's really useful. Somebody said, I have mainly music production experience, but have lots of different topics that I'd like to cover and have an idea. And I think they're saying, or should I just focus on this in my application? I think, let me just check I understand this question right. I'd like to cover it. I have an idea of how. I think in your application, so I think the question is, this person has like lots of music production experience, but also has a lot of other ideas that they want to do. And I think they're sort of asking, should I focus more on the experience I have or on my kind of like things that I'd like to do? I mean, this might be an annoying answer, but I would just I would just really include both of them. But I think the application, it asks you about the experience that you have. And it also asks you about your kind of passion for audio, and there's even a question at the end that's just like, is there anything else you want to tell us, which you don't have to fill in, but if there's a thing you want to say that you feel like you haven't had a chance to say answering any of the other questions, there's space there for that. So I would make sure that we know about all the experience that you do have, and I would show what is it that you want to do next. You haven't got to like write out a bunch of your ideas, but if you can sort of say, I've got lots of ideas in these kind of different areas that I really want to have a chance to produce, and kind of show, I mean, that's going to look great. Like, you've got some experience, you've got lots of ideas, that's amazing. And I would try to get all of that in there. And do use that final question. If you just felt like there wasn't a space for a thing that you want to say that you think we should know, I'd just say it there, because that's what it's for. It's kind of like, that's your one chance to say everything that you want to say and show who you are in your application. So yeah, I would say it all, basically. And then someone said, do you have any application advice other than ensuring our passion for audio comes through? Should we shape our application slightly more towards the companies you've partnered with? That's a good question. I mean, I think there's like 9 companies so far that we've partnered with, and I think it would be really difficult for you to like write an application that showed something aligned with like all of those different companies. So I don't think you're going to, I don't think an application is going to come out further ahead necessarily by set of showing that you would be an amazing fit for like one particular company, because I guess there's a whole sort of like thought process that would have to go into, once we know who the fellows are, where does it make sense to kind of place them, and what's going to work for them and their interests. And maybe there's 2 people that have very similar interests, and we have to work out how to sort of make that work. So I mean, I would definitely recommend looking at all the different companies and getting a sense of what they do, because that's going to help as well to understand realistically the type of work that you're going to potentially be doing as a producer in the future. And kind of, if you can show that understanding of the kind of breadth of a producer's job in your application, I think that is useful. Kind of what Deborah was saying about how maybe there's aspects of it that you really love and aspects that you don't love as much, but they are all part of the job. So if you become a producer, it's going to be really hard, like it would be really hard for Deborah to just totally avoid ever editing. So it's just like any other job, really. There'll be aspects that you love more than others. But I think showing that you are kind of up for all of it is really good. And definitely do focus on, I mean, if you have a particular area of passion, like if you are very into like audio drama, or if you just absolutely love documentaries or certain types of podcasts, you should definitely talk about that. Because you're never going to get marked down for like being too passionate about a particular area. So yeah, I hope that is sort of helpful and just not too much of like a rambly answer. Lisa, I just got a message from Lisa, who's one of our fellow organizers of Multitrack, who kind of said maybe it would be helpful to just kind of slightly outline what are all the aspects of like what a producer does in their job. So I could just really briefly try to do a tiny little bit of that, because it is quite varied. I mean, I tend to think of it as like most of the stuff is like when you do video, which is whole area in itself. I'd speak especially for kind of pre-recorded like podcasts and radio programs and documentaries, which is kind of what I do. If you think of it from like the whole process through, it's like the very beginning of the process is like coming up with ideas, researching, finding stories, finding interesting people to talk to. It might be responding to a particular brief. Maybe you get a brief from somewhere like the BBC, like we are looking for a program like this, and you've got to be able to get online, call people up, whatever it is, read a book, do all the different stuff to kind of research the idea and find what is the substance that you're going to make a thing about. And then it's kind of like identifying who would you want to talk to. It's contacting people, setting up phone calls. You might do pre-interviews with people where you just call them up and are like, this is what we would talk about on the interview, and you find out what they're like when they talk and get a sense of their personality. And are they like, have they got like a great personality, or are they actually like kind of boring, and maybe you want to find someone less boring that can talk about the same topic. And then there's kind of actually doing recordings. So that could be in a studio, that could be going on a location with a portable mic and recording stuff. And then you've got like editing, cutting that tape, editing things together, putting in music, sound design, writing scripts, and then recording scripts. Maybe you're the person talking, maybe you're recording, you've got like a presenter that you're like writing the script for, and then kind of putting the whole program together with that like scripted elements, stuff you've recorded, music, archive, all the different stuff. And then usually there's a kind of a final stage is like mixing a program, so really making sure it sounds as good as it possibly can and all the levels are good and all of that sort of stuff. A producer's job can kind of involve like any and all of these different elements. I mean, it's kind of what I love about it is how very varied it is, and it involves quite a lot of different skills. Some people are really super into like sound design, and so they'll do loads of their own sound design. Other people aren't really into that, and then maybe they work with a sound designer on that element. And then in the kind of like live radio world, which I'm like not so much in, there's like, I mean, a whole amazing other skill set about which I am totally in awe of people that do this, but it is about kind of like live radio. It's like, it's timing, it's like knowing how to write scripts and organize a program that's going to be really compelling and engaging for an audience that's listening to it live. Maybe there's like live interaction happening, like phone-ins and that kind of stuff. Live radio producers are incredibly good at knowing exactly how much can be said in 10 seconds or whatever before you have to like break and go to the news, that kind of thing. It's a really amazing skill set for the people that are interested in kind of live stuff. So yeah, that's a bit of a just like whistle stop tour, I guess, of all the different sort of elements of that producers do in their day-to-day job. Yeah, I think we're sort of supposed to stop at about 8. And so we have like 3 minutes left, so we could, if there's just any last questions. Also, if you think of a question after this, we can we don't have to stop at 8. We can go till whenever we want to go. But we can, there's an FAQ on the Multitrack website that has a bunch of stuff that might just kind of some practical questions and advice for the application and that sort of thing. The application itself, which you can download as like a Google Doc, as a Word document, or you can use it on Google Docs. That also has some advice on it. So on the last page, we've put a bit of guidance on how to answer each question. So it's worth having a look at that. And if you look at all that stuff and you just still have a question that's not answered, just drop us an email. You can email us through the website, and we're really happy to help. And I'll say as well, there's another Q&A happening on, I think it's Monday, but let me just check, because imagine if I said the wrong date. That would be bad. Monday the 26th at 5:30. If you go, we're doing it with another organization called The Bring In, and they're helping us to host another Q&A on Instagram with one of our other organizers, Nikki. So their Instagram is The Bring In UK. So if you follow them and then go there at 5:30 on Monday the 26th, that's another opportunity to ask more questions if you want to, or if you know somebody that couldn't come tonight and wants to ask questions, they can go to that on Monday. The email, someone was asking what the email is. So I think that our email address is multitrackfellowship@gmail.com, or there's a contact page on the website. So you can contact us through there as well if you want to. And then somebody asked, is there a maximum length or amount for the submitted audio example? I don't think we have a maximum length. I think just you can send, I think we just ask for one thing. So you only have to send one thing in. But if it's, say it's like a podcast episode that's like half an hour, that's fine. Just send it. There isn't, you don't need to like do any cutting down or whatever. Just send the piece and we can look at it. And then somebody said, one last question, yeah, I'm totally okay to ask a question. Yeah, if we're unsuccessful, is it possible to get feedback? Yeah, I think we definitely can. 100%, we will give feedback to people who have been interviewed. We would endeavor to give, if you would like feedback, if you apply and you don't get an interview, you should just write to us and ask for feedback. We should be able to give it. I guess my literal only hesitation is like if we got like 1,000 applications and 800 people asked for feedback, because we're like kind of a small group of volunteers, we might end up saying that's actually going to be very difficult. But what I would actually say is if you don't get an interview and you want feedback, just write to us and ask, because if we can do it, we'll do it, and that's fine. Cool. I think that maybe we've done everything. I don't know, Deborah, maybe we should end with like some words of encouragement. Do you have any words of encouragement, Deborah?
Sure. I mean, let's think of some. I'm kidding. No, I think what I would say is, yeah, you'll be fine. That's what I'll say. That's what I'll say. I'd say that, like, just make sure that you are being completely yourself, that you're reflecting yourself in your application. If you think something is slightly weird and funny, but, you know, it's still a reflection of what you enjoy and what you like to do, put it in there. I definitely added, I think I put an audio drama piece that was really cringy. And, you know, I think you just have to just, it's so annoying when people say this, but just do you, be yourself, be comfortable, that you don't have to be like all the way there yet. It's really just about showing like that you care about it. And also I would say like something that has always helped me, and might even, if you haven't made anything yet but you want to make something for the application, because that's also a thing, just listen to loads of audio. If you listen to loads of audio, listen to loads of podcasts, it can definitely inspire you to make your own stuff. So yeah, I don't know, I think, yeah, just definitely apply, though. Definitely apply. It's really worth it. And I would say that the career that I have in audio now would not, so just like the encouragement of the Multitrack team. They're amazing, amazing. Seeing you thrive. So apply. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, amazing advice. I wouldn't add anything to that. Just, yeah, say, don't count yourself out. You know, it's like you've got to be in it to win it. So if you are wanting to apply, just apply. And like Deborah said, we really do want to see like your personality and like who you are and what you're interested in. So yeah, just go for it basically, and good luck. And if you need anything else in the application process, we're here, so you can get in touch anytime. Yeah, I think that's it.